So I've been really struggling with how to start off this video because I'm going to be hitting so many different angles. I'm going to be talking about conspiracy theory, politics, spirituality, and when you really think about it, all of those things are exactly the same thing in a lot of ways. And so let's just get into it. I want to talk about a lot of the things that have been going on as of late and how it ties into things that have been happening and things that people are waking up to now that certain groups of people, AKA the conspiracy theorists and the spiritualists, have been talking about for many years. And I'm also going to be talking about what people need to do to get out of the brainwashing and the spell that most of the collective are under. If you're new to my page, my name is Andrea, and I teach dark feminine wisdom. My page is mostly about spirituality, or not my page, my channel. This isn't Instagram. My channel is all about spirituality and dark feminine wisdom. And I teach people self mastery and how to become the architect of their lives. And so this video is inspired by all of the things that are happening right now, all of the things that are transpiring in the collective, especially here in the West, the topics of conversation that are really popular on social media. Right now, we have the files. Everyone's talking about the files. And, I want to get into it because what's so interesting about some of the things that are coming up right now is just sort of like what I touched on in the beginning when I first started speaking is that a lot of the things that people are talking about right now and are very incensed by and feeling overwhelmed by are things that were written off as conspiracy theory just 5 or 6 years ago. You want to know how I know? Because I was there. I was there. I remember it. I can't be gaslit out of this. And if you are someone who is even close to being on the same wavelength as me or have the same level of understanding and understanding of energetics and spirituality, history, then you were there too and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so it's very interesting to me to sit back from the seat of the observer and watch how all of this is playing out in social media because it's just very interesting how quickly the tables will turn. And what I am finding very fascinating about this is how, no matter how often things that are written off as conspiracy theory ultimately end up being confirmed as true, people are still not getting the picture. People are still not waking up to the overall game that is being played by them or the elites or whatever entity or name you want to attach to the entities or entity that is sort of running this false system that we call patriarchy, that we call capitalism, white supremacy, whatever term you want to use. It's interesting to me that people still aren't drawing the connection. They're still caught up in this us versus them, or my side is right and your side is wrong, without recognizing that all of them are involved. There is no, this is all conservatives that are doing this, or this is all Democrats that are doing this. They are all involved in this, all of them. And the reason why they are all involved in this is because they are all serving the same master. They are just given specific roles to play in order to facilitate the brainwashing and the programming of the collective in order for us to remain under their control. This is essentially mass energy harvesting. It's mass energy harvesting, it's mass distraction. And the purpose of this is to keep people disconnected from themselves, keep people disconnected from their inner power, make people feel hopeless, and make people feel like nothing will ever change and that people don't have the power to create a new reality for themselves as individuals and as a collective. And based on what I have observed over these last 6+ years, it is continuing to work. This is a system that began being put in place thousands of years ago, and it has been working very, very effectively for these last several thousand years. But what's different between what was happening thousands of years ago, or even just a few hundred years ago, decades ago, is that human beings are rising into a new level of consciousness. And This gets talked about in a lot of different ways, depending on which spiritual school you're coming from or spiritual school of thought you're coming from. Some people call it the return of Christ or Christ consciousness. Some people talk about the rise of the divine feminine, the age of Aquarius in human design. It's moving out of the cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. There are so many different frameworks that are essentially saying the exact same thing, which is that human consciousness is evolving in a way that is, I don't want to say unprecedented, but it is something that, of course, people of our lifetime and of the previous lifetimes, the previous several lifetimes, have never seen or witnessed or experienced, and largely did not know was possible. And a lot of the people that are alive right now still don't understand what is happening. They are still caught in the whirlwind or the vortex of the programming of the system of control, the system of brainwashing, the system of distraction. And it's keeping them stuck in a loop where they're basically continuing to give their power away to the system. They're giving away their power to the system in a lot of different ways. It's by constantly consuming the programming that's being put out and internalizing it, number one, as truth. And also, number two, allowing it to affect them on an energetic level and make them feel hopeless or make them feel like all of their energy has to go into fighting this beast or fighting this system rather than pulling their energy back and recognizing that their focus and their energy should be directed to themselves and their soul mission, which is to, raise their consciousness level, raise their frequency, connect to people in the collective, come together in a space of unity and cooperation, so that this entity or this egregore that has been running the planet, through the consciousness, the hijacked consciousness of the people, can finally be defeated or rather dissipate. And so when I talk about the hijacking of consciousness, something that a lot of people don't understand is that what we call reality is an amalgamation of the collective consciousness. So every individual consciousness is contributing to this larger mosaic that creates and concretizes what we call material reality. So your thought forms, your beliefs, and not just your thought forms and beliefs about yourself, your thought forms and beliefs about the world, about people around you, what it is that you're taking in and observing and creating ideas and stories and narratives around, and then living out in your day-to-day life. All of these things contribute to reality, which is why so much effort and energy is used to program the consciousness of people, because these, whatever you want to call, the people at the top, and I say people at the top, and I'm putting it in quotes because obviously I have to be a little bit more delicate about talking about these things on an open platform, but also I want to just be clear that, the way that these beings are characterized, often they're characterized as them being the ones in power. And on a surface level, yes, they're in power, but the only reason why they are in power is because they spend so much energy making sure that we are disconnected from our power. It is our power, it is our consciousness, it's our energy and our frequencies that fuel this being or these beings that are worshiping this demiurge, this egregore, this false consciousness, this false god that is allowing people to live a life that is completely disconnected from themselves and disconnected from the divine, really. And so this programming that people are undergoing, this mass brainwashing, is the main tool and the main mechanism. And so we are given imagery through television shows, through movies, through news broadcasts, books, all forms of media essentially are designed in a lot of ways to orient the consciousness on one specific pathway, which at the root of it is disempowerment. It is giving our power away and feeding the system so that they have control over us and our generative capacity as divine beings, as conscious creators. And so for people to reclaim their power, people need to, first of all, reclaim their attention. They need to learn how to observe the things that they are being shown from a place of neutrality and recognize that there's it's very important to be very, very critical about what it is that you are being shown, because a lot of people believe that just because something is on TV, it's real. And this is where a lot of people fall into the trap, because they see a video posted, or they see something on a news broadcast, or they see something written on a reputable news site, and then they take it in and internalize it as truth. And then by them internalizing it as truth, they then further concretize that into reality. They decide this thing is true, and they believe in it with their whole heart and their whole body, which makes it much more difficult for them to remove themselves from it, or to wake up and to see the ways in which they are being programmed and manipulated. And I see this a lot within my own, within my own family. My mom, like in my mom's house, I grew up in a 4-bedroom house, and my mom has a TV in every single room of the house, and every single TV stays on 24/7. And most of the time, the TV is on the news, or she loves like tennis. Like right now, it's tennis season, so she watches tennis and like some TV shows, like westerns and things like that. But for the most part, it is on the news 24/7. So no matter what room you go into her house, there's a TV, there's a big black mirror, a big box that is blasting messages and programming out into her home, creating this overall frequency that she exists in 24/7. And I spent a lot of time in my mom's house, and I've gone into my mom's house, and I'll turn the TV off because no one's in here. Why is this TV on? But she gets mad and she wants the TV on at all times. And part of that's part of the programming. There's an addiction to this feedback loop that is received from taking in these messages all the time. And then for a lot of people, there's also a sense of ego about it, where people claim that they are more informed, or they want to be informed about what's going on in the world. And if I'm not informed, that I'm not doing my due diligence, I'm not doing my duty in terms of being informed. But there's a difference between being informed and being programmed. And a lot of people mistake those things. They think that they're informed when really they have been programmed. And we see this a lot in American politics, well, Western politics, because it's pretty much the same no matter which Western country you go to, where you are given, two parties, or if you're in the UK, there are multiple parties, but or there's more than two parties, but you still have the same end result of these tribalistic factions that are constantly blaming everybody else for not being good enough, or being good people, or doing the right thing, or being on the right side of history, as a lot of people like to say. And here in the US, we have a two-party system that is left, right, black, white, red, blue. And this system of duality, of division, is designed specifically for that. It is to create a sense of duality or separation, so that people feel like you're the blame for this, or you're the blame for this, rather than realizing that the two sides of politicians and government, they're all working together. They're all working cohesively to keep everybody else stuck in this loop of being constantly siphoned of their energy, of their creative potential, and giving it all to the system that continues to grow and enrich itself based off of the energetic and emotional labor of the people. The emotional responses that we have to news stories and things like that are part of the mechanism of, some people call it looshing, where you're literally, all of your creative energy is being pulled out of you and siphoned into these events, or some people might call them like false flags, because again, just because you're seeing something on TV doesn't mean it's real. And I'm an actress. I have worked in entertainment since I was 19, 20 years old. And I'm telling you that just because you see something on TV does not mean that it is real. Production is more than just Hollywood. Like, so many things that we see on television, on the news, are productions, meaning they are scripted and they are filmed in a way to evoke a specific response out of the collective. And you can see, based on the responses that are happening, that this is working. what they do is they give you an enemy to fight. They give you an enemy, whether it's a president or some other politician, and then they want you to direct all of your energy towards hating this president, hating this politician, whatever it is that they stand for. And then they repeat the loop every 2 years, whether it's midterm elections or the presidential elections every 4 years, governor elections, all of those things that happen on those 2 to 4 year cycles. And something I find really interesting is that people will flip flop the way that they feel about something based on who's in power. And so, for instance, these files that everyone's talking about right now, people were talking about these files 5 or 6 years ago. This has been a long-standing conversation that has been happening, where people have been talking about these files, but those files were written off as conspiracy theory. They were written off as fake, or they were attributed to QAnon. Like, remember that? They were attributed to QAnon, which was framed as like a far right group. And so by something being perceived or what's the word I'm looking for? Not perceived, but basically characterized, being characterized as an ideology belonging to this faction, people who don't have the ability to observe from a place of neutrality, or they automatically write off an idea or a thought or a belief simply because it's coming from the tribe that they are against. They will completely ignore it or find ways of speaking against it. And that's something that was happening 5 years ago, 6 years ago with these files. It was attributed or characterized as a QAnon conspiracy, and people wrote it off. But now that the big orange man is being implicated in these files, the people who were against those files or believe that they weren't true now see them as proof that they are right about the big bad orange man. And so that's one example of how something can be right in front of your face, but if it's not to your benefit, or if you believe that it's negatively impacting the people that you're a fan of, then you will completely turn a blind eye to it unless you have a way of using it to tear down the people that you are against. The same thing is with I remember specifically the shot, like the COVID jab. There are people I can think of one specific person that I know who in 2020, for all of 2020, when conversation around this vaccine started happening, this person was saying, I will never take that shot. It's evil, and it's going to cause a zombie apocalypse. And remember, 2020, Trump was president, and they refused. They said, I'm never going to take it. Over my dead body, am I taking that shot? And then in January of 2021, when Biden got inaugurated into the presidency, they completely flipped their stance on the vaccine. And not only did they flip their stance on the vaccine, they started pressuring people in their family to also take the shot, and were championing this shot and saying that you have to do this. This is for the health and safety. This is for the greater good. Their narrative completely shifted around the vaccine based on who was president. And that level of brainwashing, to me, it's incomprehensible, but obviously it's not incomprehensible because it is happening, and we have been witnessing this for so many years. But I'm talking about this because I'm seeing this play out over and over and over and over again. And aren't y'all tired? Like, aren't y'all tired of the dog and pony show? Aren't y'all tired of being the circus monkeys? Aren't you tired of being the pawns in these big global games that are being played where you are nothing more than cannon fodder? These people are all working together. Nobody is on your side. And this idea that, well, you voted wrong, or you voted for this person and I can never forgive you. All of the things that are happening right now are a part of a larger plan. It doesn't matter who is in office. And sometimes it's so frustrating because I'm watching people drive themselves into madness over these things that are happening. I'm watching people drive themselves into deep depression and despondency and nihilism and hopelessness. And that means that the plan, the goal of these evil beings who are orchestrating and manufacturing all of this, it's working exactly as it was designed. And it just breaks my heart to see so many people feeling hopeless about life and hopeless about the world because they're directing all of their energy into these narratives that are designed to keep you in a state of low frequency, to keep you in a state of depression, to keep you in a state of being completely disconnected from your power. And the people, like the people that I know that are the happiest and the most fulfilled and who have great communities around themselves, are the people who recognize the game. They recognize the game and they don't play the game because it is a game. I do not delude yourself into thinking that this is anything other than a game, because it is a game. And you either are getting played by the game or you're recognizing it for what it is and you are leaving the game, because you're not going to win this game. You're not going to win this game. The only way to win is to disengage. The only way to win is to walk away from the board. But as long as you're sitting at the table and sitting at the board and thinking that you're going to get to a certain place, you're not, because it is designed for the house to always win. So for the collective to rise up and to recognize what's happening, that is how we win. It is for our consciousness to be raised. It's for us to recognize where we have been brainwashed, where we have been programmed, where we have been misled. And I'm not just talking about politics. That's just one example that I'm giving in this video. But religion is a big part of it. Patriarchy, obviously, is probably the biggest fundamental piece of all of this. Everything that we're experiencing is a result of disconnect from the divine feminine, hatred of life, hatred of consciousness, and jealousy of the power that we have as divine beings, that these archon, disconnected entities don't have access to. They need our energy, our life force, our frequencies. They need our consciousness and the power that comes from our consciousness in order for them to sustain themselves. And so this is what is happening in the world right now. This is what's happening globally. This is why things are sort of coming to a head. And the beautiful thing about, these files, being released is that released because they're because we're getting like, just like a nice little drop of information. But what is going to start happening is, because we are in the age of Aquarius, because we are in the age of awakening, what's going to start happening is the people who think that only one group or one side is included in the absolute evil atrocities that are being exposed in these documents and in these behaviors, is that they're going to start seeing people that they admire and people that they have followed and people that they have believed are also going to be implicated. And then once that happens, there's going to be, honestly, like for a lot of people, just a major split in the psyche. A lot of people are not going to be able to handle more of the revelations that are going to be coming out in the collective in the coming years, because they're so disconnected from themselves. They are so dependent on the system. They have such a strong belief in the system that for a lot of people, it is going to cause psychological breaks. A lot of people are going to end it for themselves. A lot of people are going to check out because they're not going to be able to handle the truth that is going to continue to be revealed. So if you are someone who is just sort of like on the cusp of awakening and you are still feeling the pull of that old system and those old beliefs, especially as it relates to politics, which is nothing more than a massive system of control. Like, I need y'all to understand, like, governments don't care. They don't care about you. They are not here to make your life better. They are not here to support you. You are there as a being to give energy to enrich them and to enrich their lives. Government means mind control. When you break the word government down phonetically, it means mind control. Govern is to control. Ment refers to the mentality, the mind control. And so when you start recognizing that everything that the government is putting out is designed to get me to think, feel, and believe a certain way, then you will start to recognize the game that is being played, and you will start to be able to look at things from a place of neutrality as an observer, a neutral, disconnected observer who can see what's going on without it impacting the way that you feel internally because of what you are witnessing or what you are being shown is impacting you so deeply internally that it is causing you to feel depressed or hopeless about your life. That means that what they're doing is working for you. Now, let me be clear, I'm not saying that we are not aware of or empathetic to the terrible things that are happening to people around the world, the things that people are going through. That is not what I'm saying at all. That's not how I live. I am very, very much aware of of the atrocities that people are facing around the world. And I feel deeply for the things that people are going through all over the world and in this country in particular. What I'm saying is have empathy and compassion for the things that people are going through, but also understand that a lot of the ways that we are contextualizing and believing the narratives around certain things that are happening is orchestrated. And and not knowing that is one of the reasons why people feel so disempowered. So if you are in that space of feeling like, okay, I'm waking up, I'm starting to recognize things, I want to take control of my life, I want to take control of my consciousness, I don't want to be governed by external forces. I want to be self-governing. I want to be sovereign. This is what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to learn to start taking full radical responsibility for yourself and your life. This is something I talk about all the time in my work. I always say that the things that are happening out in the world are a mirror to the things that we think and feel and believe about ourselves internally. They are a mirror to our own shadows. They are a mirror to the ways in which we are disconnected from ourselves. They are a mirror to the things that we do that we don't think have an impact on people around us. A great example that I love to give about this that's very hard for people to recognize because most people in the world practice this, but I talk about eating animals. Genocide is a huge, huge topic of conversation over these last few years. And people talk about genocide, 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 genocide. And for me, what I realized was that by me consuming the dead flesh of living beings, I was participating in genocide. I was paying for billions and billions of living sentient beings to be enslaved, to be tortured, to be raped, forcibly bred, and murdered simply for my sensory pleasure. So that's one example of self-examination and radical responsibility that I chose to take so that I was not contributing to collective suffering, because the genocides that are happening to people around the world are directly connected to the genocides that we allowed to happen to other living beings in this world. And if you're not willing to really take a look at the things that you are doing and the way that you're contributing to the darkness of this world, you are going to continue to be siphoned from, you are going to continue to be left in a space of feeling like you're constantly fighting against some other side, or that everybody else is the blame for your problems, and that you are never responsible for what's happening because somebody didn't vote right, or the person that did get in office didn't do the thing that you wanted them to do, or whatever your excuse is. Relieving yourself of that externalizing blame and taking responsibility for yourself and what you're putting out into the world is what is going to create those shifts for you. But the shifts that we're looking for in the collective, in the world, have to start internally on an individual basis in order for it to have an impact globally. And what's happening right now is that as the consciousness is beginning to rise and the veil is being lifted, there are revelations that are happening. It is going to be more and more impossible for people to ignore what is right in front of their eyes. And so, it's going to be more and more impossible for people to ignore the ways in which they are contributing to it, the way that they have participated in it, the way that they have allowed things to happen right under their nose because they weren't willing to look at themselves and examine themselves and shift their own behavior. And so I'm going to leave it here for now because I've been talking for almost half an hour. I will probably be doing more videos on this because this is a message that people need to hear. This is what I needed to hear several years ago when I started my spiritual journey, when I was able to disconnect from the system, because something that I haven't shared just yet in this video is that I used to be hardcore into politics, like hardcore into it. And I used to attack other people and go online and talk shit on Facebook and in my comments and things like that. And it took a lot of inner work for me to realize how I was not contributing any goodness into the world by constantly being angry, constantly blaming, constantly, attacking other people for not doing what I thought was the correct thing to do because I wasn't willing to examine my own behavior first and was feeling very self-righteous about the way that I was showing up in the world. And it was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And a lot of people are starting to learn that about themselves. They're starting to recognize that about themselves. And a lot of people are never going to learn that. A lot of people are going to continue to devolve. A lot of people are going to continue to be siphoned from until they are bled dry. And that's their path, that's their journey. We are, as the consciousness is rising, there is going to continue to be a split, where there are going to be people that are going to continue to rise in consciousness, and there are going to be people that are going to stay stagnant or worse. And stagnation is death. There is no growth from stagnation. There is no evolution from stagnation. There is no life that comes from stagnation. Stagnation is literally death. When you die and all of your systems shut down, you stagnate and then you begin to rot and decompose. And then you are essentially given back to the earth and transformed into a different form of energy. That is what stagnation creates. And so if you were in a place where you're feeling stagnant in your life, or you're feeling like I have no forward movement, or I'm feeling depressed all the time, or I'm not motivated, or I just feel like, well, the world's going to shit, so why should I follow my dreams? Why should I step on a new path? You are especially who I'm talking to in this video, because you are the very, very person that these entities love to feed off of. They are feasting on you and you don't even realize it. And for you to break free is for you to recognize that, first of all, I am being feasted off of and I'm allowing this to happen. And so where can I start reclaiming my power? Maybe it's as simple as just shutting off the news. Maybe it's just shutting off the news and giving your body and your nervous system time to recalibrate and time to reorient itself to a place of sovereignty. But if you're constantly taking in all of these false messages around you and internalizing it and allowing yourself to be impacted negatively by that, you're going to have a very, very difficult time. And so now when I look at things that are going on, when I look at news broadcasts and things like that, not only can I watch these things from a place of neutrality, I can also see where the manipulation is being constructed, because a lot of it's right in your face. But if you don't have the awareness to do that, if you don't have the self-awareness, which is the first step to be aware of what's happening outside of you, you are going to get pulled into the brainwashing and the programming, and you are going to be run by external programming rather than running off of your own internal axis and your own internal compass. And so I said I was going to stop talking a couple of minutes ago, and I just had a few more things to say, but I will be doing more videos about this. I actually have a new offer coming up that I'm releasing tomorrow, and I'll be doing some videos this week where I talk more about this and how to reclaim your sovereignty. Hint, hint, reclaim your sovereignty. And if you have any questions, drop down into the comments and let me know what your questions are. Let me know if there's something I said in this video that you want me to touch on in another video. And also just let me know what you think about it, because I do know that there are things that I said in this video that are going to be triggering, that are going to piss a lot of people off potentially. But I also know that there are people out there that are going to find this video and it's going to be exactly what they needed to hear, because they've been feeling this intuitive sense that something is off, something is wrong, but they don't understand because they don't have anyone around them that is talking about this openly and honestly to help them see where they are being manipulated and where they are giving away their energy to a system that feeds off of your fear. It feeds off of your hatred. It feeds off of your despondency. It feeds off of your sense of powerlessness. But the thing is, the truth is that you are the most powerful being. And the fact that they have to go to such lengths in order to extract your energy from you should tell you just how powerful you are. So don't ever, ever forget that. If you don't take anything else away from this video, I want you to take this away, is that you are the most powerful being, and this is why they need you. You don't need them, they need you. Without you, they collapse and die and suffer and fade off into oblivion. And so take back your power, take back your sovereignty, and recognize that while there are a lot of things that are going on in the world that are awful and horrible and absolutely just shameful and depressing, there is so much beauty in this world. There is so much potential, and you have a right to be happy. You have a right to be joyful. You have a right to follow your dreams, and you have a right to help create a world that you want to birth children into, that you want to live in, where communities can grow and thrive and evolve, and humans can come together to be exactly who we were designed to be, which is a collective consciousness working cooperatively and cohesively to create absolute magic in this realm. I love you all so much. I hope this video landed with you. If it didn't, that's okay. Maybe you can come back to it in a few weeks, a few months, a few years, who knows? But I am grateful for you being here regardless. If you enjoyed this video, like and comment, leave it, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.